By the way, we have a first going on here, everybody. Mark from Bangladesh is not here, and if he misses this session, it'll be the first time he's missed in 240 some webinars that we've done. So I don't know whether he had something come up this morning. I didn't know what's going on with Mark, but welcome. We've got William in Australia, Wayne in Colorado. Wayne was out working on the farm this morning, so he's got his sweatshirt on, and William looks like he's gotten a little more sun. He's a little more tan. He said he was getting some stuff.
I am getting it.
All right. Well, I don't have any other announcements for right now. I will just turn it over to William, and I'll let him go. So take it over, man.
All right. So welcome everybody. Just so everybody knows, I'm kind of, because it's 3 o'clock. It was 3 a.m. in the morning. I'm actually presenting from the garage, from the shed. So at a point, I think I'll just move because my battery on laptop will be finished. So, but in the meantime, I'll just start. So if everybody can you see my screen right now?
I do. Let's see if everybody else. Guys, throw some ones in. Yep, we're getting a bunch of ones. Screen, very good.
Okay, so this presentation will be about setting up the infrastructure, that is, designing it, and again, I always point out people to this web page because I'm putting all the resources of all my presentations there. So if somebody wants to see, learn more about what I'm talking about, they can always check it there. Go there and put their email address and get access. So we are now in setting up the infrastructure, and we went through the whole, lessons of defining our context for our resilient permaculture farms, and going through finding appropriate land. Once we got land, preparing a base map for our designs, then we went through reading the landscape, getting out to the field, understanding the patterns we're seeing, and then using all those findings into creating our designs. And last time we talked about water system designing, and now we are talking about infrastructure that comes after we've done our first layer of water. Implementation is rather similar. We also go through the keyline scale of permanence, and that always starts with water first, and then infrastructure comes later. So in a sense, we're doing the same thing with design, just to get our priorities straight. So last time we talked about designing for water, and that was we touched upon 2 main water strategies on a permaculture farm, and that's first one is to slow spread the sink water, the rainwater we get, to capture it by different type of earthworks, and then store it into the soil, because we said that soil is the cheapest storage actually that we can find on our farm. And then after that priorities, that first priority is done, then we capture, store, and distribute the rest of the water. The extra we have, store it for later when it's necessary in case of drought, or if there's too much water, use the earthworks to channel that water beyond our farm, into the rest of the watershed below. So that's what I said. The first is storing water in the soil. The second one is storing water on the surface. Storing water in the soil is done by swales and keyline swales, or keyline design. And storing water on the surface, we do that with ponds or dams and tanks. in permaculture, we always kind of referencing two major, water management techniques. There are more of them, and while I was researching that this subject, the water subject, I was reading Brent Lancaster's water harvesting for drylands and beyond, I think, and he was also referencing many indigenous method that people were using many years before even our modern civilization. So I would say that even swales are something that it's not that permaculture invented. That's something that people were using much before even permaculture was a word. And but we usually just reference those two like the most important ones. So the first one is of course swales, and you can see swales down on the image right, bottom right. This is actually a picture from Mark Shepard. So that's swales. These swales can be on the contour or off the contour, and on the image upright, we can see the kiln plowing that actually distributes the water across, creating like a small furrows that are actually then moving water from valleys to ridges, all with the goal of storing water in the soil, because the soil is the biggest storage that you can find on a farm. And then the second water management technique would be storing water. This water strategy, second water strategy, would be storing that water on the surface by using pond tanks, harvesting that water with harvesting drains or diversion ditches, and then recirculating that water. It can be with irrigation pipes, or also some kind of drains that will be moving. So that was our foundation after we done all the preparation work and we started the design. We first designed for water, and this was our foundation that we are now building upon, our infrastructure. And here I'll be talking about infrastructure, but I'll be also referencing the homestead area, because homestead area for zone 1 and zone 2 is the area that will be comprised of the most of the infrastructure that we can actually put control, use to do all kinds of things that we wouldn't otherwise be doing in zone 3 or zone 4, which are actually left more to its own devices. But homestead area zone 1 and zone 2 is the area that I'll be also talking about how we can prepare, how we can actually create energy efficient homestead. And we'll be referencing all these kinds of tools and technologies as well, because I think that that's also part of the infrastructure. And first we'll start with the core infrastructure, and with core infrastructure I mean access, fences and house. For example, when people reference infrastructure, they mean structures or fences or all the access. But now I'm talking about the main access points, the main fences, or the most permanent ones, and the position of the house, and all the details. All the details. We'll talk about all the details in that homestead zone 1 and zone 2. So now we are only concerned with the core infrastructure. That means the main positions of the main elements, because if you get these rights, that's like 80% of the job, 80% of the saving of the energy, of the money, or of the time. And usually the biggest pain that people have is trying to determine these locations, because if you get your house location wrong, you're kind of screwed, because it's not as easy to just move that house somewhere else. Or also the access points as well, the main access roads. If you get the machinery and do the work and then realize, oh my God, my access point is in the wrong place, or I was supposed to put my orchard here, or whatever, then it's a terrible waste of money. So that's why I'm first concerned with the core infrastructure, with the main elements, where to put the main elements, and then all other are just, you could say, details. And we go into the details in the homestead area, zone 1 and 2. So the first is access. Okay, so out of all infrastructure elements, access will be the most permanent feature. You could say more permanent than even a house, if it's put into good location. And the access will determine how you move around the farm for many years to come. So that's why it's important. And as you can see from the image, once you have all your access points, this actually guides your layout and size of the fields that are in between the access points. So and these are, in Kilan design, they would say that those are the fields that we'll be using for our growing areas. So in a sense, after you've done your water and then put your access points, that actually defines your growing areas. That's why I kind of had it in that sequence. In the next webinar, we'll be talking about the growing areas. And then it's not rocket science to determine where those growing areas are, because as you can see, design itself is telling us where they should be. So obviously, in between. And that's why I say that choosing a location for our access services our primary concern. Even if you construct them correctly, in a sense, you get machinery and your road is perfect. But if it's wrong location, that's then it's going to just add to the maintenance costs. So that's why I'm going to first now discuss what are the main locations, what are the best locations. I'm going to talk in a sense that first the best one, but the terrain is not everybody has the perfect terrain for putting the roads where they're supposed to be. So maybe we'll be going to, maybe not everything is applicable to your situation, but we'll see which actually are. So now we're going to talk different locations, and first I have to say that location will be determined by the climate, land shape, and the water supply network. So this is, again, this is how we think in Kilan design. There are certain priorities that need to be dealt with first, and that's why in Kilan design it's always first about climate, and then about geography, and then we move to water. Okay, so after those three we move to access. And that's why I say that all the access points will be first influenced by climate, land shape, and water supply network. And in a gentle. If you have gentle slopes, then location will be more. It's more negotiable where you're going to put your roads. If your terrain is flat or little gentle slopes, then it really doesn't matter, because if it's all flat, then everything is equal. If it's all gentle slopes, then almost everything is equal. But there are certain locations that are much better, and certain locations that are much worse. And we'll go through all of them. And just for reference, here are the locations that we'll be talking about. So the first one, looking from left to right, is the first one is boundary line axis that is close to, of course, boundary fence. Then main or primary ridge axis, which is on the ridge. Then the one that is close to the water systems that we develop near the water supply network, and then the one in the valley. And I got to say here primarily that road systems that are using a combination of alignment along contours and ridge lines, they can provide a complete access to any point on a farm. Contours will provide a horizontal access, and ridges provide a vertical one. And that's why first we're going to talk about those two, because if you can have the contour ones, the access on contours and the access on ridge lines, you'll be set. Of course, there is certain situation where you need to adapt your approach, but if your site has developed terrain, then on the ridges would be the first consideration of putting it, and we'll see now why. Okay, so the first one that we're going to discuss is the ridge crests, along the ridge crests, because we talked maybe a few lessons before that the ridges actually represent the highest point in the landscape. You can think about it as a long, narrow area in the landscape where water flows off in both directions. So everything that falls on the ridge actually goes up the ridge in both directions. And this is, as I said, the best location for the road. From that reason, mainly you'll see because of that reason, because it stays naturally dry during rain events, so they are easily accessible throughout all year. Compare that to the road which is in the valley and flooded. It's not easily accessible throughout the whole year and throughout all the weather extremes. On the ridges it is. That is why it is the best position we can have. So they're easy to maintain compared to the ones in the valley that are constantly exposed to the erosion. And as I said, from a ridge, gravity takes water in directions away from the road. So actually, by doing so, we don't have any accumulation or washing out of any road material. And we'll see, later how the roads itself are designed. So, so what happens with water? Actually, the roads are water harvesting structures as well. And for reference, on your bottom right, on this right image, there's something that I got from Darren Doherty. And you can see a topographic map, and on that topographic map with this, I think it's I would say a white lines or these red white lines that are going that are following the ridges. They are connecting all ridges across the whole property, and by doing so, he has whoever owns his farm easy access without a lot of earthworks to create it, easy to maintain, and have a good overview over the whole property as well. As you're on the ridges, you can walk. You can walk. You can look at both sides of your property, and then have a pleasant drive, and in the same time, look for any trouble on any side. So this is our first main location that we are striving for, and you'll see that because of that location, we actually have we don't have to do that much of excavation. We are not actually cutting into anything. The road is on the ridge, it's on the top, so it's only a matter of flattening that ridge a little bit. And it has good natural drainage and less erosion. Okay, so the second one is on the contours, and the thing is with roads are becoming a water harvesting structure, so they will change the natural drainage pattern. They are hard surface, so everything that falls on the road actually or erodes the road easily, but the road itself becomes a water structure. So if you put your road on a contour, what did you get? You actually got a swale-looking water structure. It can be connected to the swale, but if you don't want to concentrate the runoff and you looking horizontally, if you put your roads on the contour, you'll also be preventing erosion. And when you think about it, if you drive on the contour, you're actually going always, you're always on a flat because you're following the contour. So that requires to travel significantly less energy. And another thing is that if you're following contour, then you'll generally limit the amount of excavation that you have to do. If you look on the image right, the first one, the number one, is actually not following a contour, and because it's not following contour, you have not much more, but you have more material, to excavate. The number two actually is following the contour, so it's much less material. So that's why I'm always in these kind of things. Okay, so in the design, when you're doing design, I said that certain decisions and certain knowledge can save you a lot of time and money and energy and everything. So it's the same with the location. The location of road is important. So if you put your road properly, you are saving time and money and energy, as you see. So that's the whole point of creating a farm that is resilient, and creating a farm that will eventually save you money compared to a conventional farm. We have all these tools to make our lives easier and to save money, to play the farming game a little bit. So we don't have to work that hard. I'm not saying that it's easy, but it can be easier, with permaculture and permaculture design. Okay, so the next thing is putting is going to come also naturally. If you already have some water harvesting structures, then obviously you'll be trying to connect those structures to your roads, or putting your roads close to them. Not just that, because last time we were talking about putting creating an irrigation network, or building swales, or building harvesting drains or ditches. So all these structures are actually more permanent than access roads. So access roads rarely will go across them. That just adds because that's what we are trying to avoid. We are first putting water and then in our structure, then our access, not the other way around. So if we put our roads first, and then we decide, oh my God, so this is actually the best. Our harvesting drain is actually going through the road. Then we screw it this way. If we put our water first, structure first, and then do our roads, then and water structures are already in a good place, then the roads are actually just following that. As you saw with the when I was explaining about irrigation pipes, the irrigation pipe also are following a certain rule in how they're distributed across the landscape. So last time we were actually saying that the best location for the irrigation pipes is on the ridges. Okay, so if it's on the ridges, then and we know that roads are the best location for roads is also on the ridges, then they are actually together following the same terrain features. So in a sense, if you're building the roads, you'll be probably trying to connect them to water structures that you have, and the water structure that you have will be already in a good position. So in most cases, the roads will follow them, whether they're on the contour or somehow just moving water from one place to other place, and then you want to connect them. And finally, we have located in the valleys or along boundary lines. The first one in the valleys, they can be constructed well and also used, but as I said, they are subject to more erosion. They are subject to flooding as well, especially in the high rainfall areas. We also know that in the valleys, as we said, in the reading the landscape lesson, we're talking about the soil and distribution of the soil and different water moisture regimes. So it's in the valleys we have deeper soil, we have more moisture, so obviously more boggy areas, more potential for flooding. And on the ridges, it's ridges are naturally shallow soil and more rocky areas. But in a case that you have to, that can be also put there, but the highest priority goes to contour and the ridges one. And then there we have roads that are located along boundary lines. I would say that they are the lowest on our list of priorities, and especially because the boundaries can change. So if you put it too close, then and the boundary changes or something, and then you're screwed. But usually these kind of roads are just there to control the boundary or just to see how the fence is going. So that's why I say lowest on our list of priorities. And I was also saying that the roads are water harvesting structures. They will generate overland flow by intercepting all the seepage that comes from cut slopes, by surface sound that falls on the road itself, and then it goes and discharge in some kind of then it drains into discharge. And I would say in certain kind of landscapes, the roads will be the only hard surface that will actually generate some surface flows. I would say in my kind of landscape where I'm in karst, most of the rain that falls onto the ground actually gets absorbed quickly and goes into all the little holes and fractures into the limestone, drains really quickly into the soil. There is hardly ever surface runoff, but the roads that are there on the property and everything that's going around the property. The public roads are made from asphalt, so they are generating obviously flow because it's 100% surface runoff. But the other ones that are not paved with asphalt, they are also generating. They are generating 60% more surface flow than anything that will ever drop on the soil, because the soil doesn't get that easily saturated because everything drains into the underground. So in a sense, in such a situation, the roads will be the only hard surface runoff you can count on, and that's why we're using it. They are staking functions. You're using it not just for getting across the property. You're also using it for capturing that water. Okay, and all those, then the roads can be connected to your swales or to ponds or dams or whatever, or also they can just collect all the leaf mulch and all the silt and everything, so you can use that for your potting mixes or whatever. But that's like staking functions. That's why in building a road, the road is graded, so it has it's slightly tilted to both directions, or maybe just in one. So the runoff actually goes away from the road into the roadside ditches, as you can see on the image left, image right, slowly tilted. We have the roadside ditch that actually collects, and then that roadside ditch can be, if the road is on contour, then it can be something like a swale, but sometimes it doesn't have to be swale. It can be slightly off contour, and then getting that water somewhere else. And what I'm going to say also is that the road will change the hydrological situation of your farm. So it's rather important that whatever you do, you try not to change how the water would be flowing. You're not trying to change the complete, let's say, hydrological situation, but rather move water slightly, in certain direction where you want it to go, to fill your water storages, or to discharge it, let's say, a little bit more quicker into natural valley where it would be flowing otherwise. So yeah, that's what I'm. So that would be like the most important principle. It would be connecting to other water features, and using it to stack other functions as well. Use it for collecting leaf mulch and everything. But I would say it's really important that they are taught as water harvesting structures, because the surface runoff is much higher than probably anything except your roof. Okay, so your roof of the house will be probably, I don't know, 95%, 98%, 100%. Road will be much less, but roads will be taking significant, not surface area, but they have great potential for collecting water. Okay, so next is house, and I actually talked with many people, and rarely do people have just a bare land without house already there. Okay, so I would say that's a building house is getting the bare land, then building house from scratch. Not many people can afford that. So house is usually already there. So if the house is already there, then we need to somehow first adapt that house to best that we can. Okay, that means putting some insulation and some extensions maybe, but that house can be in the totally wrong location. It can be totally wrong oriented. So it's not easy to say, which is it better to have the house already there or to build a new one. Sometimes you could say it's more expensive that the old house stays there if it's in completely wrong place. But where you're going to locate, if you have that opportunity to locate, maybe you can, maybe the old one can stay, but based on your knowledge on permaculture design where it should be, maybe you can build something smaller somewhere else on that perfect location. So let's say that we are able to choose our house location where it would be. We're going to go through all the consideration, and then I'm going to conclude based on what I found. Okay. The first thing to consider is, I would say, a kind of a golden rule would be that you take in consideration all the energy flows that are coming from outside of the site, and that means that's why we are reading the landscape and then trying to get some information from the landscape, and then create some assessments and create sectors map like this, so you can see where the energies are coming. And we're going to go through all of them, not all of them, but the main, let's say the main ones would be, okay, so where is the sun located, where are the coldest winds, where are the views that I would like to have. So all those flows have to come into consideration before choosing the right location. And I would say a big no would be putting the house on the top of the hill. I know that everybody would like. Just give me a sec. Just give me a sec. What? Yeah, the wind opened the doors. Okay, so I know that everybody would like to put a house on top of the hill and prioritize views, but that's actually the worst location. No, I would say the second worst. The worst would be totally in the valley, below the flood line. But the best view is the most expensive one from energy perspective, because the winds are coming from all directions. It's very exposed. So the best thing would be rather like Bill Morrison say, put some smaller house to get just to have it there for views, and you put your house, if you can, somewhere lower. And we are going to see where that lower is, where the best position is. But top of the hill is very energy expensive. If you put where you put it, it's going to be also dependent on you having a good solar access to enable yourself then an energy efficient house in a passive solar. So that means that you don't want to be putting your house somewhere where the neighboring hills are going to obstruct your solar access throughout the year. So you want to, in northern hemisphere, you want that to be totally exposed to the south. In southern hemisphere, totally exposed to the north. And you can do that easily on the terrain by using certain apps. There is an app on the smartphone that you can use that actually then you can watch the sun path, and then based on that. So all this has to go into consideration. And if you can do somehow that it has a topographic protection from prevailing wind directions. Again, we also you see from you already know where the winds are coming. So if you can put your house somewhere where it has protection, wider vegetation or hills or something from the prevailing winds, then of course you're contributing to energy conservation. So finally, I would say that on a slope, I would say that it would be kind of the perfect location, because on the slope you have good air and water drainage. You also gain gravity potential. For example, if your house is on the top of a hill, then you don't have any gravity to use. If it's on the slope, then you can put something on the top of the hill and use that water tank as gravity. So use that water tank gravity potential, and then get that water to the house. So I pulled this from Bill's Mollison design spin-off. So this is what Bill recommends. So as I said, on the top of the hill, wind can come from all directions. Water must be pumped. So on the other hand, if you go on other extreme and put it somewhere in the valley, especially on near a river, then you are risking floods, and also you're not risking, but it's colder, because the cold air will actually drain towards the valley as well. So the best location would be on the mid slope. In this way, you avoid frost. Your house is not too exposed to the winds. You can use water tanks that above and feed by gravity to your house. So mid slope would be the perfect location if you had that opportunity, of course. Not on the valley, not on the near the rivers that can flood. Not on the top of a hill where it's expensive. You still on the slope, you can still have good views, but also you will get all these opportunities to create different microclimates, and you will add complexity, and I would say in my opinion much more habitat that will be much more interesting in a sense to combine all the permaculture stuff in zone 1 around the house. So this is just two examples that I found on the internet. So you can put, like, if it's on the slope, like a split level where you have multiple levels, or split 2-story levels, like have 2 stories, and you get access from the top, let's say, from the top of the ridge you come, and then you have that story, and then the story underneath, creating all oriented in a good direction. So with the views, with everything. So I would say that, and you still have things that are above you, and you can use the gravity potential of those water tanks to pump, not to pump, but to get that water to the house. So why not? Okay, so I'm not sure if anybody has questions. I'll just look if anybody has questions, because I'm more than half an hour in. Let me just see.
William, you do have some questions there. So
Yeah.
Let me get you the first one. Do you see them there? You see them up on the screen?
But I see questions on my sidebar. So
Yeah, Michael's got the first one, and then Jorge is the following one. So.
okay, many of the items we want to establish in permaculture, like tree predominantly, take years to come into production. How do you see the transition occurring with such time delays? Well, I'm going to touch on that after we're done with the design. I'll go into implementation steps, and that's what I'll be also talking there, because what I'm doing on my farm already has infrastructure, but that infrastructure is not in the right position. It's not where I would like to be, and it's rather expensive to repair that. So that's why my whole focus goes into planting trees first. So that's kind of the first thing that I'm doing. That's kind of what Mark Shepard would recommend. Do your trees, put your trees into the ground before you do infrastructure. But then after that, there is also consideration. Okay, so how is my soil? How does my soil look like? Is my soil alive or not? Is it fertile or not? So if you have fertile soils, then the trees will grow much faster. If on top of that you have trees that are 2 years old, not going from seeds, not growing 1 year old, then it will grow much faster. So first, it will be improving the soil biology. That will make things faster. Then the next thing would be maybe getting a slightly older trees that is going to be more expensive, but that is going to then also accelerate things. So that's how I look at it. First, I would first depends on your situation if infrastructure is there or not. But if you do design already in your head on the paper, you already know where things are going to be. So there is if you know where the roads are going to be, if you know where the ponds are going to be, then you can clearly you can start planting straight away. Okay, improving the soil and planting, and then accelerating your transition. Okay, so Jorge, to build the house or greenhouse in our land, can you tell us the right location of this building regarding the sunlight, please? Greenhouse on your land. Well, we're going to talk about the greenhouse, but I would say, okay, so always a greenhouse somewhere in zone 1, because then it's close to the house. You'll have much more control. I'm assuming that you're somewhere where it's much, I don't know, Jorge, I'm just assuming, Mexico or something like that. Or Spain, somewhere where it's, or Brazil, whatever, somewhere where it's you have much more sun. So I'm assuming that you don't need to heat it up or something. So the best location would be, of course, on a south side of the house if you're northern hemisphere. Ideally, that greenhouse would be an extension of your house, in a sense, if you need extra heat, but oriented toward the sun. And you'll see, I'll touch on passive solar, and you'll see, let's say, the best orientation of that, or how to orient it. So looking toward the south, and I'll let you know how to orient it in a sec. How can we have a biological stable pond? I don't know. That's a question for probably from Wayne. He has...
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that one there. So I'll address that real quick.
Yeah.
Before I do, though, the question is, can you get this later for later watching? Yes, we put replays up. So on the Ecology Action Team site, I'm sure Mark will put something on. He didn't miss us, William. He got here. So I don't know what caused him to. Now he's with us. So anyway, Mark will put that up there, everybody, so you can be able to get replies. But back to the stable pond, just like anything in nature, nothing is stable. Everything is either growing, or it's decaying, or it's movement. It's not ever in an exactly stable mode. If I think what you're asking about is, can you get one that is sort of in a state of succession that you want it to be in, whether it's because you want to grow fish in it, or because you want to fish in it, or you want to have a combination of uses. And the simple answer is yes, you can do that. And the big thing you have to control to do that is inputs. What are the nutrients that are coming into it? What's the rainfall that's hitting it? What's the water flow that's either coming into it or leaving it? All of those things are things you want to manage to be able to create a system that has the uses of it that you would like. Just like you do as William and Evan and Mark and all of our instructors, Vale and others talk about as it relates to terrestrial, to the land. So we actually have a whole bunch of different series on that topic, and you can go and look at replays, and instead of taking William's time here, I'll just say that you absolutely can create a stable pond. I have a course that we're teaching on ecological aquaculture where that's exactly what I want to show you how to do, and the key is to control the inputs into your system. So I think we'll stop with that. And William, I don't see him, so you move ahead.
Okay. All right, so let's talk about fencing. Okay, so fencing is the final part of the infrastructure thing that I'm talking. So it's also an essential part, but it's less permanent than other infrastructure components. So that's why last. And here there are two types of fences you can design for main infrastructure layout. That would be fences that will serve as a more permanent feature of the firm. That's sometimes stone wall fences. Of course, stone wall fences would be really more permanent, and then something like hardwire fences, less permanent. But as you can see, if you're building a stone wall fence, that is a permanent feature. That's not easy. That's not easy to move. So that's how we are looking in our priority of execution. This design, the main roads, the house, and the fences, they're all hard to move once they're in place. So they need to be in a good location. And then we have living fences and hedges. Living fences also, if you're planting trees, if you're doing shelter belts, if you're doing different hedges that you'll be using later, then they have to also be in a good location. So, they're more permanent. They could be even more permanent than hardwire, sometimes more than stone wall fences. But important is to put them correctly. If you don't want to, or undo things that take time to grow. So that's why the whole point of the design for infrastructure is getting it right. Okay, getting the main infrastructure position structures in their position right, so you can avoid overdoing it later. And now when we look at positioning our fences, there are certain locations, and we'll see. We'll kind of conclude the infrastructure with this. So the first one is, of course, the perimeter fence, the general boundary one. And sometimes this one, we are designing it first when it comes to fences. But sometimes that fence, when we are implementing our design on the field, on the site itself, then sometimes those fences have to go first. Security reasons, not allowing animals to go in. And the general boundary fence is the easiest one to design, and the first one that we do. So other fences, when you talk about other fences, they will be generally associated with the roads, and they will follow their pattern. Okay, so the main fences are generally associated with roads. So that's why fences are coming after the roads, and that's why there is nothing new to invent here. Okay, there is nothing, you can't miss it. So the main fences are closely associated with the roads, and they follow their pattern. And you can see that from the example on the image left. That's also from the Dorothy. You can see that actually the red thing are the fences, and the fences are following the roads. Okay, and the roads are following the irrigation system that he developed. But let's say that there is no irrigation system. Let's say just we have roads, and where would the fence be? Okay, the fence will be just around the road, following the road and their pattern. And we also want to design fences that go according to natural and other artificial water lines that you develop. So that's another consideration. And also protecting areas that you want to be protected. Certain, I don't know, if you're putting something that's growing just and needs protection, then obviously you'll be enclosing that. But this is how it all fits together. So the roads, you have the roads, and then you have your fences, and then as you're doing that, all the areas in between are actually your growing areas. Well, depending on where your house is. Okay, so and we're going to touch that in the next lesson. So from zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, zone 4. But this is your like a whole farm layout, big concept. Okay, so you've done your core infrastructure, your roads, your house, and the fences, and everything that is left in between. Before we go into details, so this is a whole farm, concept. Are going to be your growing areas that you can use then for, we are going to see next lesson, either food forests or food savannas or aquaculture or gardens, staple gardens or whatever. We're going to look at all of that next time. So just to repeat once more, so we done the core infrastructure, the whole farm layout with the core infrastructure. We first found the access roads, then the best location for the house, and then we done fences. And with that, we can move to details, okay? And those details are the homestead area. I call this zone. I call the homestead area zone 1 and zone 2. Sometimes people have only zone 1 and zone 2 because their property is a little bit small. They can have even on an acre, can have a zone 3 or 4, but looking more, let's say, farm, from a farm aspect, zone 1 and zone 2 would be areas that are close to the house, that are more under our management and our control. So, and here I'm going to talk about creating an energy efficient homestead business, because again we are all about saving time, saving energy, saving money in that sense by making the good decisions, making the right decision in the design phase, so we make our life easier and our farm resilient, and that's the whole point of creating let's say a resilient farm with permaculture design principles. Okay, so in talking of all these details, I'm just going to touch on what structures one should have in the homestead area, or one should think of, and then how to arrange them. So they are actually saving energy. We are creating energy efficient. Efficiency and resiliency are two different things, but here we are trying to create something that is efficient, but we'll see something that is also robust and resilient, in a sense that you always have backup for your efficient system. I'm going to touch on that a little bit later. Okay, so the components. The first one is, of course, the if you're starting from the house, is creating a water system. Again, water first. Okay, so the water system for the house, and that means positioning the water tanks around the house, or maybe putting them in the ground, depending on winter temperatures. Black water system, septic tanks, and you want to think about first how the water is going to look like on your homestead. Again, if you have that opportunity to put the water tanks, and that's the point of our design, was to locate the water tanks higher in the landscape, and that's why we said put the house on the mid slope, so you can utilize that slope for gravity potential. So first, of course, water. Then second, I would say expanding to other structures that are around the house, and that means your greenhouse, shade house, nursery. Actually, all that is connected to your plant growing, and that are structures. Okay, so raised beds we're going to talk about raised beds in the growing areas next lesson. But here, we want to think how we're going to manage your plants that are going to be around the house. So that means nursery, greenhouse, and shade house, and everything that's connected to that. And as I said, for the greenhouse, to Jorge, I was saying that the first thing would be, let's say if you're in a colder climate, then extending your house with the greenhouse is a great idea, because then you can get all that heat that comes from the greenhouse into the house, And you can also heat the greenhouse from the house as well in other direction. But the main issue will be orienting, putting it in the right location, that on the south side, and then towards the sun. But if you're, I'm not sure. I think the Mexico is in tropics or subtropics or something. In subtropics, so again, I think the same would apply. But obviously, you don't have that. Obviously, you're trying to grow the tropical plants there, because if you're in subtropics and you need a greenhouse, obviously you are in a valley and you can experience really cold temperatures. You need to protect your young seedlings, or you're trying to grow tropical plants. In both cases, you need protection and you need sun. So I would say orienting toward the sun. Think about where is the south side, and then you'll see how to utilize the passive solar when I talk about it for the house. So the next would be equipment and tools, sheds and storage areas, machine shop, everything that where you're going to dispose your tools and everything equipment that you're going to be using. So that's kind of the next. The first one was the living. The first we were talking about the living, the plants, and now we're talking about the materials. So sheds and garages and all those components need to be somewhere close to the house. So close to the house or close to the whatever you're doing. So the main consideration is to think how we're going to locate how it all connects to how many activity nodes is it between certain activities. That's how close they need to be. So obviously you want to put your everything. You'll see I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. Everything kind of connected that you're going to use together. And then animals. Think about animal housing and barns and chicken coops. So those are all zone 1 and zone 3, zone 2. So when you think about all those details, I think how I'm going to tend my plants, where I'm going to put my equipment, where my animals going to be, and with that you want to place buildings as close together as possible to kind of form building complexes that saves time and of course energy. And I would say when you try to locate everything, think about it as if there is like a central courtyard and all buildings are positioned closely together around it. So as in this image, like there is a certain area where everything is kind of close together, because everything is the activity nodes, the frequency of using the buildings are the shed needs to be close to something that you're using. If you're using if you need a lot of things from your shed, then for your nursery, then obviously they have to be close together. And you can think about it. Just think about how you're using those structures. Okay, so this is kind of the image, similar image to the last one, but just in a bird's eye perspective. I found this in a bio-integrated farm. So I would say that each element on the image represents a certain activity, and it's an activity node. Okay, so and the more traffic between the nodes, the quicker and easier the movement between them has to be. So that was I was trying to explain that in the last image. So when you're deciding where you're going to put infrastructure elements, in the homestead area, analyze each of the elements and then think about how you're going to use it, and think about how you can combine connecting it to different components. And that's why I said that the best the best location for all of them would be around some certain, like a courtyard, so where you can get with the car and everything is around you. So there's a central courtyard and all the buildings are around that courtyard, so for easy access, and they're all connected in between. And now let's go to the house. I won't be talking that much about the house, but let's talk about energy systems for the house. So the first thing is, and that applies also for the greenhouse, is passive solar heating throughout the year. Okay, so orienting yourself toward the sun. The first thing is, okay, so where is my sun? My sun is in the northern hemisphere toward the south, in the southern hemisphere toward the north. So first would be orienting yourself to the sun. That would be the first, and the second would be orienting your longer side of the house toward the sun as well. Okay, because then you get more thermal exposure, you get more exposure with more surface, and then with that doing that, more thermal mass is exposed, and more you can absorb more energy. So the first consideration would be orienting toward the sun. The second consideration would be orienting the longer side of the house, or the longer side of the greenhouse, the longer side of the raised bed towards the sun, or in direction east-west. So that's the kind of the first rule in saving energy for the house. The second would be, I would talk about energy producing and harvesting structures. So there is, of course, the whole systems, the people of trying to generate their own electricity, and that sometimes you can afford it, sometimes you don't, but sometimes you can just start small, and sometimes you just have different sources available to you. So it can be photovoltaic or wind energy, or micro hydro, or biofuels, or passive solar, hot water, or just wood stoves. So each of us will have different opportunity. I'll just quickly go through some of them, just to where. So the modern energy systems, the renewable energy system, typically consists of a source of direct current energy, such as solar panel or wind turbine, and then it has a battery system for storing that DC, and optional generator. But then, before it goes to be consumed by the user, there we have a inverter. And it's just a general structure. I won't be going. I'm just giving them an overview. And the thing is that no single source of this energy will work best in all situations. So rather a combination of some of them would be great. So when you have sun, you have sun. You don't have wind. When you have wind, you don't have sun, for example. And the stream, sometimes you have the stream the whole year, or sometimes you don't have it. So rather a combination would be the best to think about. Different solutions for your energy needs, and this can be clearly in a sense of implementing one by one and making small changes. If you already have energy, if you're already connected to the grid, then trying to be more self-reliant in a sense that using different energy sources for different appliances, not trying to get straight away into something now totally off grid, rather just being more self-reliant. And then when we're talking about homes in zone 1, zone 2, I was already in the first lesson when I was talking about the context of our society we are living in today, we are seeing that technology is rapidly expanding, and I would say that there's a lot of people who say that permaculture is low tech, and I would say, yeah, permaculture is low tech. It's all about saving energy, and we use low tech tools. But I'm saying that we can use all the other tools at our disposal while they are still here, or they may, if the technology is constantly progressing, and we have 3D printers, we have we can automate our daily chores. We can automate all the small things that then that saves us time, obviously. And this is an image of a farm bot. So I'm not saying that okay, so the farm the robot should be gardening for you. What I'm saying is, for example, if you're not home and the whole thing needs watering or weeding, this can you can use let's say technologies like this on your homestead in your zone 1 and maybe zone 2, but zone 1 is so your house, zone 0 and zone 1. Zone 0 is, let's say, almost total control. Zone 1 is almost, it's partial control, but things can be easily controlled with, let's say, technologies. And I would rather say we can use technology, but we always have a backup for the technology as well. So we have high tech and low tech. We can use them both together and use them for our purposes, but it does have, they are not mutually excluded. So in a sense, you can say that solar panels are also high tech, and we shouldn't be using high tech. So there is no difference between using automated systems, using, for example, Raspberry Pis or Arduinos to control the homestead, the house, the zone 0 and zone 1, to best of our abilities to save ourselves time and energy. And last, I'll talk just about some tools and technologies. So when I say tools, technology, I think hard goods and mobile infrastructure. And with this, I have a rule for myself, and that is that I always buy high quality tools and durable tools that I can use for next 30, 40, 50 years if I can afford it. And I don't have enough money not to afford it. So the second thing is the mobile infrastructure that I can put, let's say, on my farm now, but one day if I want to move all of that, I'll be able to move it and take it with myself. So that's a kind of a lesson that people can take also as well, that all the tools and technologies maybe that you can have, if you can make them mobile, then no matter where you are, if you invest in them, you can take them with yourself to somewhere else, to your other place. And first one, of course, the hand tools, and this can be all the battery power tools, or your hose or axes and broad fork and everything. So the rule is, if you are thinking about your hand tools, about your material capital, then I think about how you're going to acquire a quality one that will last. It will last for a long time. And then also the bigger tools, like tree planters or tractors or sawmills or walk-behind tractors. So this is all the mobile infrastructure that you can acquire that is quality, that you can use, that you can pay for it itself, and you can take it wherever you go. Okay, so this is kind of the investment. If you're not in a situation where if you're renting, or if you're somewhere where you know that you're going to move, nothing is stopping you in acquiring hard goods or quality durable tools that you can then use. These are all assets that you can look at them as assets. And then mobile infrastructure, something that Joe Salatin would be talking, mobile infrastructure. You can use that infrastructure even if you're renting. So that would be like a buildings like greenhouses and tunnels and caterpillars, and then all irrigation or mobile fences. This is the mobile infrastructure that you can also acquire, use it on your farm, use it on the rented land if you don't have no land yet, and then take it to somewhere else. Or if you find acquire land, take it to your land and to your farm. Okay, so that was it. Let me see if there is any questions. I think I went.
Again, as always, awesome, William. Let's see what we got for questions. Anything more? If you guys have questions, throw them up.
I can't see my. No.
Bunch of you out there, so throw in some questions if you guys got them. Put in some ones if you enjoyed it. Nick's saying yes. Nicole's saying thank you. Bunch of ones from Nick. Again, as you guys know, William and all our speakers come in and they give you everything, so they're trying to give you their best. So let's say Jacob says, what was the equipment in the middle of the slide with the tractor?
That was this is just a double spear bale fork, or you can use it for not just bales or whatever, just for lifting things. So just a good extension to have for a tractor.
So Monty says, thank you. Lots to think about. We are relocating to 4 acres in a year. Chance to start from scratch. That's really nice. Yeah. Samira says, thank you. Jacob says, thank you. Linda says, got to go shovel snow. 10 inches so far. Linda's up in the Northeast, so that sounds like she's gotten hit. Like a checklist for energy, checklists are great. William he'll put it up in the resources, whatever he's got, so you guys can look for that. Well, it looks like everybody's just giving you thanks, my friends. So okay. I think we're pretty done. So again, guys, remember it's 3 o'clock, or was when he started in the morning there in Australia. So
it's 5 now.
Yeah, it's got a little later, but thanks everybody, and